At my daughter's wedding, she revealed my unseen worth, transforming our family's life forever. The day Lily got married, the air buzzed with excitement, but beneath the surface, a storm brewed. Jack, a weathered mechanic with calloused hands and a heart of gold, stood at the edge of the garden, watching nervously as the translucent white curtains waved gently in the breeze. He had spent years in the depths of grease and oil, but today was different. This day marked a shift, a moment of revelation. His daughter was about to speak, and he felt the weight of her words like an anvil on his chest. Every detail of the ceremony was picturesque. Giggles flowed like the music from the string quartet, delicate petals danced across the grass, and the sun shimmering above felt like a blessing. Yet, as the guests milled about, he noticed glances exchanged from the groom's affluent family, their disdain cloaked in polite smiles. Each whispered remark struck at Jack's pride like a hammer. He was a mechanic, a humble provider, and their luxuries made him feel small, invisible. When it was Lily's turn to speak, a hush fell, and he could feel his heart thumping louder than the music. Standing before a sea of flawless suits and extravagant dresses, she cleared her throat, her voice trembling slightly yet filled with the strength he had instilled in her. Growing up, my dad taught me what it means to work hard, she began, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. I remember him waking up before dawn, pouring so much love into our family, teaching me that character is worth more than gold. Each word wrapped around Jack like an embrace, but the sneers of the groom's family tightened his throat. Memories flooded back, nights spent in the garage, showing Lily how to change a flat or fix the family car, reminding her to stand firm in the face of adversity. Her stories painted vivid portraits of resilience that resonated with some guests, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Clearly unmoved, just as she began to gain momentum, Lily dropped a bombshell. Inspired by her father's unwavering spirit, she proposed an initiative to support local mechanics. We often overlook those who truly build our community, she declared, her voice steady but emotional. Those hardworking souls who get their hands dirty so that we can drive our shiny cars. Whispers rippled through the crowd. A few faces lit up with understanding, while others recoiled. In that moment, Jack felt a flicker of hope spark within him, though the deep-seated prejudices of the groom's family loomed like dark clouds overhead. Would this recognition be fleeting applause, or would it lead to lasting change? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the music faded and Jack felt all eyes on him, a wave of raw emotion washed over him. He locked eyes with Mary, her expression a tapestry of pride and worry. In that brief moment, Jack realized their struggles had not gone unnoticed, their values lived on in the heart of their daughter. Uncertainty nipped at him. Would this be enough to shift the mindset of those who judged a man by his background? The gaze of the audience became a weight on his shoulders, and he knew that this was just the beginning of a broader journey, one that would test the very principles he had so fiercely tried to instill in Lily. Jack stood frozen, his heart hammering in his chest. The applause from the crowd ebbed and flowed, a gentle wave of appreciation mixed with skepticism, drifting over him. He could still see those polished shoes shifting nervously in the front row. The groom's family sat like a fortress, polished and pristine, armored against any possibility of recognizing Jack's worth. Then, the realization hit him like a splash of cold water: Lily had taken a bold step. It was more than just a speech, she had drawn a line in the sand. Maybe it was time for him to step out from the shadows of doubt and take a stand alongside her. Dad? Lily's voice cut through his thoughts, pulling him back from the edge of uncertainty. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting warmth and determination. Can you come up here? A few hushed gasps filled the air, but Jack felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. This was his moment, albeit unexpected. As he walked towards her, each step felt heavier, yet hopeful. The garden, once overwhelming, suddenly seemed to shrink around him, and the crowd blurred into white noise. All that mattered was Lily, standing there with open arms. When he reached her, she took his hand and raised it to their audience. "This is my dad," she declared, her voice proud and unwavering. "He is the heart and soul behind everything I've achieved. And he is not just a mechanic. He is a master of resilience. He taught me the beauty of hard work, the dignity in every struggle." Her words ignited a flicker of recognition in some faces, as others remained unmoved, eyes narrowed. Jack's pulse raced, but he stood tall, feeling his daughter's warmth envelop him. This was his chance to break free from years of feeling inadequate. "Lily," Jack spoke, clearing his throat. "You remind me why I always gave my best. Every late night, every busted knuckle, it was all worth it to see you thrive." His voice trembled slightly, emotions bubbling to the surface. "I never wanted you to feel ashamed of where you come from. We might not have glitter, but we have grit. And we need to celebrate that." Silence followed, thick and heavy. He glanced towards the groom's family, who wore expressions of shock tinged with disdain, but he pressed on. "Every job done with pride, every mechanic who toils in the background, deserves recognition. It's more than just repairing cars, it's about keeping families safe and moving forward." His heart swelled with every word, the weight of vulnerability transforming into a hefty strength. It felt freeing. The tension in the air began to shift, resonating with a few nods among the crowd. Was hope stirring in places he hadn't expected? As each second ticked by, he caught sight of Mary in the distance, her smile now radiant. Their journey together had been arduous, fraught with moments of doubt and hardship, and yet here they stood united. Just as Jack felt the pull of gratitude drawing him at last into the light, Lily leaned in closer, her voice low and urgent. "Dad, remember what we talked about? About how this could lead to something bigger?" The warmth of the moment faded, embers of uncertainty flickering back to life. Had they truly opened a door that couldn't be closed? Could they actually challenge the status quo and bring change to the community that needed it the most? Jack's heart raced once more, not with fear, but with possibility. "The future depends on what we do now," she whispered, and the weight of her words settled heavily upon him. With a new determination, he nodded, glancing back at the audience. This was just the beginning. And as he stood there, side by side with the daughter who had transformed him, he realized, they were about to embark on a journey toward respect, recognition, and perhaps a path to brighter tomorrows. But how far would they go to make a difference, and would obstacles ahead threaten their mission? Jack stood there, the weight of the crowd's gaze feeling heavier than ever. He took a deep breath, the air thick with anticipation and a tinge of anxiety. What if they didn't understand? What if Lily's boldness led to disappointment? But as he looked into her eyes, his resolve strengthened. He wasn't backing down now. "Dad," Lily said, her voice rising above the murmurs, "we've talked about starting something, a community project, a way to honor all the unsung heroes like you. This could be the spark." Jack felt a rush of emotions. His daughter was right, this moment could change everything. He glanced back at the audience, taking in the mixed reactions. Some looked intrigued, a few even nodding along. Others, particularly the groom's family, maintained their icy expressions. Jack's heart beat faster. It was a chance to shift the narrative, to let people see the beauty in grit and hard work. "Okay," he said, his voice steadier now. "What if we hold a community event? Share stories of those who don't get the spotlight, who work behind the scenes. Mechanics, nurses, teachers, everyone who keeps this world turning." A spark lit in Lily's eyes. A celebration of everyday heroes. "We could invite everyone, those who've built this community up." Jack felt the crowd shifting, the air crackled with newfound energy. "We can create a space where the hard work is honored, where people know they matter, no matter their background." The murmurs grew louder, some voices filled with excitement, and others, still skeptical. His gaze fell almost instinctively back to the groom's family, and he noticed the rigid posture of the groom's father. The man's face remained a mask of disapproval, and Jack felt a knot of anxiety creep back in. But this was not about them anymore. Let us show that hard work and dedication are just as valuable as luxury. That dignity has no price tag, Jack continued, his voice rising with fervor. We get to redefine success. With each word, he felt the fear receding, replaced by a powerful urge to uplift not only his family but the entire community. This was about healing, about bringing people together, and it was only just beginning. Lily squeezed his hand tighter, a silent assurance. Together, she whispered, we can build something bigger than ourselves. Jack's heart swelled with pride. The vision of their project brightened the path ahead, even as uncertainty loomed. How would they go about it? How could they find the resources? With a smile on his face, he thought, one step at a time. The applause started small, a few claps here and there, hesitant but growing. Slowly, more joined in, until the sound became a resounding cheer. Jack's heart soared. The crowd began to shift from doubt to hope, from skepticism to interest. But just as the deafening applause rushed over him, Jack felt a chill as a shadow fell across his face. He turned, and there she stood, someone he hadn't seen in years, someone from his past, who knew more than he ever wanted to reveal. Could this encounter shatter everything they had started to build? What are you doing here? He gasped, the moment hanging between them like a delicate thread ready to snap. Would she be a source of support, or were her intentions more sinister? Jack's world spun into uncertainty once more, and he felt the very ground shifting beneath his feet. The crowd was still alive with applause, but Jack's heart sank as he focused on the woman standing before him. Her presence felt like a storm cloud about to unleash an unwelcome downpour. He hadn't seen her in years, yet here she was, standing at the fringes of a moment that was meant to shine bright. Sarah, he said, the name barely a whisper escaping his lips. Memories rushed back, echoes of laughter, shared dreams, and a betrayal that stung like poison. Lily squeezed his hand tighter, searching his face for reassurance. Despite her youthful spirit, Jack saw the worry flicker in her eyes. Do you know her? Yes, Jack replied, his voice rough. We have a history. He tore his gaze away from Sarah, forcing his focus back on the people gathered before them, but the connection felt broken, strained. Sarah stepped closer. I heard you speak. It's good to see you doing well, Jack. Her tone was calm, but he noted the weight behind her words. Was this a simple greeting, or did she intend to disrupt the moment he and Lily were trying to create? Why are you here? Jack tried to keep his voice steady, but the tension coiling in his chest was almost unbearable. I came to support an old friend, she said, a hint of sincerity flickering in her eyes. I never stopped caring about what you did for this community, or about you. Jack shook his head slightly. Seems a little late for that, doesn't it? Just then, the audience began to settle, eyes darting back to Jack as they awaited his reaction. This was not the time for personal history. He needed to bring the focus back to the community, back to the project that could lift spirits and shine a light on everyday heroes. Come on, Dad, Lily prodded gently, her voice laced with encouragement. Let us not let this moment slip away. Her faith in him rekindled his strength, and Jack straightened up. You're right, he said, taking a breath. New beginnings, right? He turned slightly to face Sarah. I appreciate your concern, but we have a vision to pursue here. The audience seemed to stir again, some still anxious, others curious about the dynamic unfolding. I'd like to show people that even when times are tough, families can overcome together. Jack felt empowered by his daughter's presence at his side. And that includes understanding and forgiving our pasts. No matter how difficult. A murmur of resonance spread through the crowd, a flicker of hope igniting among them. Jack caught a glimpse of a few heads nodding, perhaps seeing the truth echoing in his words. Sarah took a small step back, but her eyes remained fixed on Jack. I had my reasons, she said softly, almost pleading. But I regret not being there when you needed support. Realization washed over Jack. Maybe he could treat this moment not as a burden but as an opportunity. If he could extend the spirit of forgiveness to Sarah, perhaps that same spirit could ripple through the community they aimed to uplift. Let us allow everyone to rise together, he said, his heart racing with this newfound acceptance. Let us show that even in our messiest moments, we can build something beautiful. The crowd shifted once more, anticipation hanging in the air. He caught Lily's proud smile, and it fueled him. Jack turned back to face their audience, buoyed by the electric connection that had reignited, but before he could continue, Sarah surprised him by stepping forward again. I want to help, she said, her voice firm. Let me help you with this celebration of everyday heroes. Jack blinked, grappling with her unexpected offer. Could they really work together? Suddenly, he felt the fragile thread of hope weaving through them all, a revelation sparking where once stood only uncertainty. What could come from this collaboration? Could it be the key to healing not just his past, but the very community he cherished? Let us explore that possibility, he said slowly, feeling the weight lift, even as curiosity swirled around him. But deep down, Jack knew this new beginning could be far more complicated than he imagined. With the past re-entering their lives, would they truly be able to redefine success and uplift their community together? The crowd was shifting uneasily as Jack turned his gaze back to them. He sensed the anticipation hanging thick in the air, their eyes darting between him and Sarah. His heart raced, torn between the past that felt so raw and the hope that Lily had sparked in him just moments ago. Okay, Jack began, his voice steadier than he felt. Let us talk about what this means. Sarah, if you truly want to be involved, then we need to be honest about our past. It's not just about what we can do now, it has to involve our truth. Sarah nodded, her expression softening. I understand, Jack. I truly do. Jack stole a glance at Lily, who was watching him with wide, hopeful eyes. You're right, he said, reminding himself that they were no longer just individuals caught up in their own hurt. Each of us has a story to tell. This community deserves to hear it, too. Lily squeezed his hand again, an anchor grounding him at that moment. Let us do this together. She beamed. Jack smiled, encouraged by her perseverance. They could turn this into something beautiful. All right. So here's the plan. He felt a surge of determination as he laid out ideas, each one igniting the crowd with excitement. Sarah even chimed in, proposing ways they could engage the community, pull in local heroes and share their experiences. Ideas seemed to flow like water, and Jack felt himself warming to the idea of collaboration. As they brainstormed, something unexpected happened. An elderly man from the crowd raised his hand. What if we share our struggles too? He suggested, his voice gravelly yet sincere. People need to know they're not alone. Jack felt a swell of gratitude for the man's boldness. This was it. Yes. That's exactly it. The crowd erupted into applause, and Jack felt as though they were on the cusp of something momentous. Together. He looked at Sarah, who was nodding, her eyes shining with purpose. But just as the energy began to reach its peak, he noticed the slightest frown crease her brow. What happens if our past still haunts us? If I'm not good enough? Before Jack could respond, Lily spoke up. Everyone has struggles. It doesn't make us less worthy. Her youthful conviction cut through the tension like a ray of sunshine. Jack caught Sarah's gaze, and for a moment, something shifted. His heart skipped a beat, taken aback by the connection blossoming between them. Could it be possible to actually heal? Could their stories intertwine in a way that didn't just acknowledge pain but celebrated resilience? Lily's right, Jack said, feeling renewed hope. No one is perfect, but together, we can create a space for everyone's story. As the crowd buzzed with approval, Jack's mind raced. This was the opportunity he never realized he was waiting for, to redefine not just his path but also the one Sarah chose years ago. But lurking beneath the rising excitement, a pulse of unease returned. Would their cooperation bring about genuine healing, or would it ignite past tensions? Jack inhaled deeply, reminding himself to focus on the present moment. Let us set a date for this celebration of everyday heroes, he said, his voice infused with conviction. As the crowd erupted in cheers, he glanced back at Sarah, their eyes locking for an instant, filled with an unspoken understanding. The past might not be so easily forgotten, he thought, but perhaps we can create something new together. Yet, just as he began to envision their future, a voice from behind them called out, shattering the moment. Jack, do you have any idea what you're getting into? His pulse quickened. Who could be questioning this effort? Suddenly, the ground felt less certain beneath him. Was this challenge greater than he anticipated? What unforeseen obstacles would surface as they tried to bridge their past? Where would it all lead? Jack, do you have any idea what you're getting into? The voice resonated like a bell tolling in the silence that followed. Jack turned slowly, trying to place the tone and familiarity. A tall figure emerged from behind the crowd, a sharp face twisted by irritation. Who is that? Lily whispered, a hint of worry creasing her brow. Jack recognized the man. It was Brian, Sarah's brother. Tension rose like steam in the room. Brian had a reputation for being blunt, often raising eyebrows with his criticisms. Jack took a deep breath, reminding himself of the support he had around him. Brian, this is a new beginning for us, Jack said, trying to steady his faltering confidence. We're here to share our stories and build something positive. The crowd shifted, murmurs buzzing in the air. Jack felt their doubts. But beneath it all, he could feel the hope stirring again. Brian crossed his arms, leaning slightly forward. And you think the past will just disappear? You think you two can patch things up after all that has happened? His voice was sharp, taking shots at a sensitive area. Jack felt himself getting defensive. Sure, we have a complicated history, Jack said, letting his emotions surface. But isn't that why we should be doing this? To let others know they're not alone. To show them change is possible. A chuckle from Brian rippled through the crowd like a stone tossed into a pond. Change. That's a nice dream. But do you really think it can work? Or is this just another attempt to feel better about yourself? Jack felt his heart drop. But before he could respond, Sarah stepped forward, her voice gaining strength. Just because our past was messy doesn't mean we can't strive for something greater now. We're not perfect, but we want to try. Isn't that worth something? Brian hesitated, and the crowd seemed to lean in closer. Jack watched as the tension between them turned electric, an unspoken challenge hanging in the air. The common ground they were trying to create felt so fragile now, threatened by doubts and history. All right, Brian relented, his gaze softening slightly. Let us say you can turn things around. What's the plan? You just going to talk and hope for some fairy tale ending? Not just talk. Action, Jack replied, driven. We'll share our stories. We'll invite people from this community to come and share theirs. We can show that even the most broken roads can lead to beautiful places. He was surprised by the fire in his own words, the clarity stealing through his anxiety. It felt almost intoxicating. He glanced at Lily, who nodded, and then at Sarah, who seemed on the brink of a breakthrough. The crowd was watching intently, eyes glinting with curiosity. Another man from the crowd chimed in, how will you really know if you're making a difference? Jack felt the weight of the question, but it was a moment he realized was significant. By being honest. Sharing our truths, discussing our fears, and celebrating our victories, no matter how small. We'll invite feedback, we'll make it a dialogue. Sarah's eyes lit up. Together we can create a map of our community's strengths and struggles. We won't shy away from the hard parts. That's how we'll know we're making a difference. Applause erupted again, but Jack felt the intensity return. Brian still looked skeptical. Did he need to break this wall down brick by brick? As the crowd buzzed with life and ideas, excitementousness fired in the air, Jack wondered, could they truly push through the walls of doubt? Was it enough to inspire real trust, genuine healing? And just as Jack felt a surge of determination, Brian leaned closer and whispered just loud enough for Jack to hear, "I hope you know what you're doing. Because if this goes south, it's going to hurt all of us." The weight of his words hung heavily, igniting a spark of fear. What if Brian was right? What if their shared story didn't heal but instead tore them apart again? Jack's heart raced, the path ahead blurred by uncertainty. With every bit of hope, fear danced close behind. How would it all unfold? What unexpected truths lay hidden just out of sight? Jack leaned against the wooden podium, his palms slick with sweat. The crowd shifted restlessly, their eyes like tiny spotlights, demanding answers. He could feel the weight of Brian's words echoing in his mind, chipping away at his resolve. What if their plan did fail? "Okay, everyone," Jack called out, raising his hand slightly to quiet the murmur. "I know we're not all on the same page just yet. That's part of the journey, right? Not everyone will believe in us at first, and that's okay." He glanced at Sarah, who stood beside him. Her expression was a mixture of determination and fear, a potent reminder of just how much they had to lose. "Let us start small. We'll host a meeting next week. Share our stories, our challenges, the real stuff. I promise it won't be just hot air. I want this to feel real." "Real can be scary," someone from the audience shouted. Jack couldn't tell who it was, but their voice resonated with a collective hesitation. "It is scary," Jack admitted, allowing himself a moment of vulnerability. "But so is staying stuck. If we don't try, we're giving in to that fear. And I don't know about you, but I've had enough of living in the shadows of my own mistakes." That statement hung in the air. Jack felt a shift, something like the gentle unfurling of a flower in spring. He took a deep breath. We all have our cracks. But it's those cracks that let the light in, right? We can learn from each other and maybe, just maybe, heal together. A murmur of agreement washed over the crowd, a ripple building like a wave. Slowly, he saw faces nodding, eyes softened, as if they were seeing an unknown roadmap to possibilities. Even Brian's sharp gaze appeared less hostile, curiosity flickering in his expression. "Let us open this up," Sarah added, taking Jack's cue. "Who wants to share a little about their struggles or what brought them here today?" Jack's heart raced in rhythm with the rapid exchange of voices. People raised their hands, each sharing snippets of their lives, their battles with addiction, grief, anxiety. Each moment was a thread weaving them closer together, revealing that everyone was imperfect yet striving in their own way. Lily stood back, watching with amazement as vulnerability transformed the tense room into a place of shared humanity. Jack could feel the walls dissolving, the burdens loosening from their shoulders, but just as the spirits began to lift, Brian stepped forward again. "All right, you've all poured your hearts out, and it's brave, really. But how do you plan to keep this momentum going? What's next after today? It can't just end as a feel-good session." Jack felt his stomach churn. What was next? They had sparked something alive, but where would they take it? He could almost hear the clock ticking, each second a reminder of the uncertainty hanging in the air. Pressure surged, but instead of panic, he grasped at the hope they were nurturing. "Maybe we create smaller groups to meet regularly," Jack suggested, surprising even himself. "We can work together on specific goals and support each other through the highs and lows. It can be practical, focused on real progress. Let us not just talk, let us advocate for each other in bigger ways." The crowd buzzed once more, this time with excitement. Ideas bounced around the room, and Jack drew strength from their enthusiasm. Sarah clasped his hand tightly, her confidence blending with his own, but in the fervor of hope, an unsettling thought crept into the corners of Jack's mind. What if their first attempt fizzled? What if this was just wishful thinking? As he glanced at the faces around him, he knew they all carried a piece of that fear. Would they stick together when the road got tough? Could they truly turn their stories into a symphony of strength? Just then, a woman stood up, her voice tinged with hesitation. I want to share, but what if it just leads to more heartbreak? Jack's heart sank. The truth was, he didn't have all the answers. Perhaps the real challenge lay not in creating the plan, but in staying united through the trials to come. With that lingering fear threatening to engulf him, Jack felt the room's earlier warmth morph into a chilling awareness. They had only begun to scratch the surface of what it meant to heal together. What vulnerabilities awaited them in the work ahead? What would they discover about each other and themselves on this unpredictable journey? Jack shifted uneasily on his feet, the weight of the room's silence pressing down on him. All eyes were now on the woman who had spoken, her hands trembling at her sides. He could feel the pulse of uncertainty ripple through the crowd. Would this moment falter like so many they had nearly tried before? I know it feels vulnerable, he said, trying to inject warmth into his tone. But every step, every share, is what builds that connection. We've all experienced pain, but we often forget to give each other a chance to see the beauty that arises from it. The woman nodded, her brow knitted with doubt. I've shared before, and it ended badly. What if it happens again? Her fear resonated, and a few heads shook in empathy. Jack recognized the hesitation mirrored in others. This wasn't just about sharing, it was about trusting again. Honestly, Jack started, looking each person in the eye, it might sting. But it's also a chance. A chance to rewrite our stories together. We can build a support network, an army of sorts. He smiled at his own enthusiasm, feeling the words take form. An army that lifts each other up rather than brings us down. There were hesitant smiles and murmurs of agreement. Lily caught Jack's gaze, her eyes filled with determination, as if she were silently urging him to keep going. The atmosphere buzzed with tension, energy crackling like static in the air. Then Brian spoke up again, this time a flicker of something new in his tone. What if I don't want to share? What if I'm not ready? I hear you, Jack replied, sensing an opportunity to redirect the conversation. It's okay. This isn't a one-size-fits-all. No one has to share until they're ready. We can set the stage for everyone like a safe harbor to share their own storms when they feel safe. Jack's heart pounded as he felt the audience lean in closer, a dance of curiosity hovering in the air. Ideas flowed through the room, small groups forming around coffee tables, midweek check-ins, shared resources. Encouragement blossomed, and Sarah's voice chimed in, sounding almost musical amid the growing excitement. And we can set up a social media group to stay connected. Share journal entries, inspirational quotes, any resources we find. The idea hit like a spark. Heads bobbed in agreement, voices chimed, laughter punctuating bursts of enthusiasm. Jack could hardly believe how quickly a mere suggestion had transformed into a chorus of hope. Their fears, while still present, began to intertwine with possibility, but beneath that uplifting moment, Jack felt a shift inside him, an undeniable urge to dive deeper. What if this moment was more than just starting a group? What if it was about a raw, unfiltered honesty that unveiled who they truly were? He turned to the woman who had spoken of heartbreak earlier. What is your name? Ella, she whispered, but her eyes brightened. Well, Ella, would you consider stepping up to guide a small group? He could feel the room's focus tighten. Your experience could help someone else who feels just as lost. You would be giving them hope. Her mouth opened to respond, but hers wasn't the only face alight with something new. Others were inspired by her potential, and Jack knew they were all catching fire. It ignited a momentum that had been dormant for far too long. I will think about it, Ella finally said, a hint of a smile flickering. Jack nodded, letting the moment linger before he glanced around the room. See? That wasn't so scary after all. We're stepping toward the light here, and we're going to need each other to hold that light bright. The warmth of camaraderie swelled, yet a part of him remained rooted in his own doubts. He understood that the road ahead would not be easy. What would happen when their fears collided with the real world? As the final notes of their shared enthusiasm faded, Jack caught a glimpse of the transformation beginning to unfold in front of him, but it was accompanied by an unsettling realization. Would they truly be brave enough to confront the past lurking behind their smiles? As he stood in the middle of that room, illuminated with new possibilities, he asked himself, what hidden truths might be revealed in the coming days? Jack stood amidst the buzz of hope, but something deeper tugged at him. The moment felt monumental, like the first breath before a plunge into the unknown. As people shared their ideas and excitement filled the air, Jack's thoughts drifted back to the last time he had tried to reach out to his family. He could still feel the sting of rejection, the sharp realization that vulnerability didn't always lead to acceptance. That he shifted his weight, scanning the faces around him. There was Sarah, her infectious enthusiasm igniting a spark in others. Lily, a steadfast beacon in a storm, seemed determined to help bridge the gaps that their pasts had carved. And then there was Ella, her eyes shining with possibility, but still shadowed by her fear. Jack felt a surge of hope mixed with a nagging feeling, could they really build something beautiful from their collective pain? Let us talk about what we need to feel safe, Jack suggested, his voice steadying as he gathered their attention. What do you want from this group? What can we promise to each other? The question hung in the air, and for a moment, the room fell silent. Jack watched as they pondered, their faces showing an array of emotions: surprise, curiosity, and even a glimmer of courage. Sarah broke the silence first. I want honesty. No judgment. Just real talk. Nods of agreement cascaded through the crowd. Jack felt a smile starting to form on his lips. Honesty, that was a strong foundation. He sensed a wave of relief ripple through the group, their common yearning to strip away facades emerging. And we need to celebrate every step, Lily chimed in, her voice laced with compassion. Even the small victories. It's a process, and we should recognize our own progress. Jack's heart lifted. There was power in those words. A realization dawned on him: this wasn't just about sharing their wounds, it was about building something that reflected their strengths, too. Brian, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. What if someone isn't ready to share? I don't want to feel pressured. Exactly. Jack clapped his hands together, grateful for Brian's candidness. No one should ever feel pressured. This is a journey we take together, and it's okay to sit back and listen. We'll make space for everyone, at their own pace. As the conversation unfolded, new ideas emerged, weaving together the threads of their shared experiences. They discussed potential themes for gatherings, activities that fostered connection, and even accountability partners who could help them stay on track. It was as if, little by little, they were carving out a sanctuary built on empathy and mutual respect. Yet, beneath the surface of exhilaration, Jack felt a deep ache resurfacing from his past. There was still something he hadn't shared, a piece of his own story that felt fundamental to the group and to himself. He glanced at Ella, who seemed engrossed in the dialogue. The glimmer of hope in her eyes had become contagious. What would happen if he shared his own fears and failures? Would it resonate, or would they see him as just another broken person clinging to optimism? The question lingered, sitting heavily in his chest. I guess, he finally said, hesitating just enough to gather strength, we've all got our battles. And I know there's something that I haven't addressed yet. I think it's vital for us to recognize our own truths, even the ones that scare us. I'm ready to share some of my own struggles. The room drew closer, intent listening written on every face. Jack's heart raced. Would they be welcoming? Would they join him in unfurling their hidden selves? Together, he felt the walls of fear begin to crack, light filtering through. But as he looked into their expectant faces, he realized what lay on the other side of this revelation could shift everything. In that moment, he asked himself once more, what unseen truths would emerge, and how far would it draw them all together? The energy in the room crackled with anticipation, as Jack prepared to take the leap that could either forge a new beginning or expose painful remnants of the past. Would they find solace in his story, or would it all come crashing down? As Jack took a deep breath, the silence felt thick, a tangible mix of hope and fear hanging in the air. How could he express the weight of his past, the failures and regrets that still echoed in his heart? He looked into Lily's reassuring eyes and the eager faces around him, feeling the warmth of their support wrapping around him like an embrace. "I've made mistakes," he began, his voice wavering slightly. "I wasn't always the father I wanted to be. I let fear hold me back for far too long. I shunned opportunity because I thought I had to shield my family from failure." He paused, letting the gravity of his words settle. "But instead, I let my fears keep me from being truly present. I hid behind work, behind excuses, afraid to admit that I was struggling." The air shifted, and Jack could see understanding dawning in the eyes around him. Someone from the crowd whispered, "You're not alone." He nodded, encouraged by the softness of their murmurs. "A few years ago, I lost my way," he continued, the memories rushing back like a torrent. "I thought putting on a brave face was enough. But the truth is, silence doesn't heal. It festers." Lily took a step forward, her presence grounding him as he wrestled with vulnerability. "I made promises to myself to you all that I would change. But it's been hard. It's like trying to steer a ship with no wind." A hush enveloped them as he cast a glance at Sarah. She nodded gently, a shared understanding. "And that's why it matters," he pressed on. "That's why we're here, to create a space where honesty can thrive. Where we can all share our stories and support each other through the storms." He could feel the crowd leaning in, their focus now entirely on him, hearts wide open. "I don't have all the answers. I'm still scared. But if we can start building bridges out of our own pasts, then we're already lighting the way for others who are lost." As his voice rose with conviction, applause began to ripple through the audience. Every clap felt like validation, a drumbeat heralding the dawn of something meaningful. This was more than just a gathering, it was a rallying cry to embrace their humanity, flaws and all. Jack felt the energy shift, a collective determination firing up the room. Faces turned toward each other, engaging in shared whispers, confessions and laughter bubbling beneath the surface. People began to share their own stories, some softly spoken, others bursting with emotion, each tale contributing to the tapestry they were weaving together. Lily stepped up next, her voice radiant. "It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to admit you're struggling." Her courage was infectious, dispelling the shadows even further. As each individual opened up, Jack felt a profound sense of belonging swell. There, amongst the words spoken, he found healing. No longer did he feel like an outsider within his own skin, this was the community he'd always envisioned, a place where everyone mattered, no matter their backstory. Just when it felt like the walls had crumbled entirely, Brian lifted his hand again. "If we genuinely want this to stick, what's the first step?" There was a challenge in his tone, but Jack felt a quiet confidence arising within. "We make it a priority," he replied, determined. "Monthly meetings where we support one another and share our journeys. Real, actionable steps. And we always leave space for anyone to step back when they need it." The crowd buzzed, a lovely hum of agreement blossoming around them. Ella stood up. "I can help organize it." Cheers erupted, echoing off the walls, emboldened spirits shining brighter. Jack looked around, catching Sarah's gaze, then Lily's, a swell of gratitude washing over him. They could weather any storm. They could rebuild together. For each story shared, new seeds of hope were planted. What had begun as whispers of uncertainty transformed into resounding affirmations of worth. Jack smiled, feeling lighter than he had in years. From this moment on, we'll write a new story. One built on love, resilience, and a commitment to one another. As hands joined and hearts synchronized, they united an unbreakable bond. No longer were they merely individuals carrying their burdens alone. They were a community, a family fighting together for healing, laughter, and a brighter tomorrow. Remembering that fateful day, the wedding that ignited this journey, Jack knew deep in his heart that they were just getting started. Together, they would rise higher than they ever thought possible. And as the energy in the room pulsed and surged, Jack savored the liberation that came with their commitment to each other, resolving to keep the flame alive no matter how challenging the road ahead. Now is the time for this journey to flourish, but it needs you. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire real-life transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread this message of hope and unity. Comment below about your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this transformative message. Don't wait not even one more second. True fans support this channel, and together we can radiate the significance of hope and healing.